It was a sunny day in Sarajevo, the capital of the recently annexed province of Bosnia. The date was June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary, a man of stern reputation, was visiting the city. He was the heir to a vast and powerful empire, a sprawling collection of diverse peoples. Few people knew this day would ignite a global firestorm. The world in the summer of 1914 was a complex place, a web of treaties and rivalries. It was full of simmering ethnic tension. It was full of fierce national pride. But on that morning, for a brief moment, it seemed like just another day in a busy European city. The Archduke and his wife, Sophie, rode in an open-topped car, exposed to the crowds. They were there for a public appearance, a show of imperial presence in a restless province. Their journey through the city streets was a fateful one, a path laid with unseen danger. Hidden among the onlookers, a group of young nationalists had planned to kill the Archduke. They were Serbian nationalists, part of a secret society known as the Black Hand. They believed the province of Bosnia, where Sarajevo was located, should belong to Serbia, not Austria-Hungary. This single act of defiance was meant to be a spark for their cause. It missed the Archduke's car. It exploded under a different vehicle, injuring several people. The Archduke was shaken but determined to continue with his day's schedule. He decided to visit the wounded in the hospital. The driver of the Archduke's car was not familiar with the revised route. He made a wrong turn. He drove down a street where one of the assassins, a young man named Gavrilo Princip, happened to be standing. It was a moment of pure, tragic chance. Seeing the car attempting to reverse, Princip saw his opportunity. He stepped forward from the crowd. He raised his pistol. He fired 2 shots at close range. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen. The second struck Franz Ferdinand in the neck. The world was about to change in the time it took for 2 bullets to find their mark. The immediate aftermath was one of chaos and disbelief. The Archduke and his wife died within minutes. The assassination sent shockwaves across Europe. It was a shocking act of political violence. But it was not in itself the cause of a world war. Instead, it was the spark that landed on a huge pile of dry tinder. The political climate of Europe was already dangerously flammable. For years, tensions had been building. Great powers were competing for dominance. They had built enormous armies. They had signed secret treaties. The death of one man in a provincial capital was about to unleash all of that pent-up hostility. The assassination did not happen in a vacuum. It happened in a Europe crisscrossed by a complex network of alliances. These alliances were like a series of tripwires. They were meant to provide security. They promised that if one country was attacked, its friends would come to its aid. However, this system also meant that a small local conflict could quickly escalate. It could pull in nations that had no direct interest in the original dispute. 2 major alliance blocs had formed over the previous decades. They stood opposite each other like 2 armed camps. This division created a deep sense of suspicion and rivalry across the continent. One of these groups was the Triple Entente. This was a series of agreements that linked the United Kingdom, France, Russia. France and Russia had a formal military alliance. They were worried about the growing power of Germany. The United Kingdom had agreements with both France and Russia. It was concerned about Germany's naval expansion, which challenged Britain's dominance of the seas. These 3 great powers did not have a single unified treaty, but their shared interests and mutual fears bound them together. In the weeks following the assassination, news raced across capitals. A flurry of ultimatums and diplomatic cables crisscrossed the continent. Austria-Hungary, emboldened by Germany's unconditional support, issued a harsh set of demands to Serbia. Serbia accepted most, but not all. It wasn't enough. On July 28th, Vienna declared war. The tripwires were now live. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of the Slavic peoples, began to mobilize its vast army in support of Serbia. This triggered Germany, which activated its own long-held war plans against both Russia and its ally, France. The infamous Schlieffen Plan called for a rapid invasion of France by swinging through neutral Belgium. The violation of Belgian neutrality was a red line for Britain. On August 4th, it entered the conflict. Within days, the great armies of Europe were on the march, many convinced the war would be over by Christmas. As the empires called upon their colonies for resources and manpower, a European crisis rapidly transformed into a truly global war. The spark in Sarajevo had finally met the tinder of alliances, and the world was set ablaze.